And here's the main story. It's that Cuba goes all the way and becomes the 51st state of the United States.
Castillon Confidential by Albert Castillon.
Welcome. How are you, insiders? Thank you for the strength, the honor, the encouragement, and the conviction that things can change if civil society is united. Thank you for making it happen through a YouTube channel and a daily show from Monday to Friday, sometimes also on weekends or at the last minute that tells the truth. Thank you for being there and supporting us. The week was intense. Iran, Venezuela are on hold, and Cuba, which we're going to talk to you about today, because we have received very good news and confidential information, and we want you to be the first to know about it. Here, we were also among the first media outlets to talk about Donald Trump's plan to put an end to the Castros in Cuba. We always said that this was a chain reaction that started with Maduro and continued with the Castros, and hopefully one day it will end with the Z of Zapatero and the S of Sanchez, right? That's what we're doing, holding on here for almost 8 years. Look, the news we've received is crucial. Cuba is entering a phase of real change. What we're going to tell you exclusively is about the direct negotiation between Marco Rubio and Raul Castro's son, Alejandro Castro Espin. There are other meetings, other talks, yes, but the negotiation for Cuba's future is carried out only between these two main figures, Marco Rubio and Raul Castro's son. As you know, Alejandro Castro Espin is the Director of Intelligence and the Secretary of Defense for the Cuban government. And he has an advantage when negotiating with him, which is that he can't stand his father. He really doesn't get along with his father, which the United States is taking advantage of to close deals. We already told you here that there were preliminary agreements which were established during 2026. The change to democracy in Cuba, possibly not elections, would be in 2027, but the real change in 2026. We also pointed out to you in previous reports that this agreement was going to be signed, and once it is signed, humanitarian aid to Cuba from the United States will begin. All of that is in the plan. The new development is that the United States is offering Cuba two possibilities for change to continue surviving as an island, obviously, without the Castros in power. Plan A, that Cuba becomes a freely associated state of the United States. That is, that Cuba maintains internal self-government and establishes a special framework of relations between both countries. It would be something like what exists in Puerto Rico, a freely associated territory, but with U.S. citizenship for its inhabitants. It would be a more gradual transition, possibly slower, but equally effective. That's the first plan that Marco Rubio offers to the Castros. And the second, Plan B, pay attention. And this is the main news, that Cuba goes all the way and becomes the 51st state of the United States. With full integration, with representation, and with a complete institutional framework. These are the only two options. There are no others. There is no transition with a Castro family member running the country, no. There are no more, and all of this will be done along with an extremely advantageous tax status in the first 25 years, which has also been negotiated between North America and Cuba. Either of the two options is designed to create jobs, businesses, to achieve sustainable growth and attract investment, to rebuild infrastructure, to modernize the cities of Cuba. That is to change it from the bottom up. The goal is to create prosperity without having to spend decades on it, to do it in a rapid, steady, sustained way. We already talked about Trump's plan to build a bridge between Florida, between Miami and Cuba, to attract luxury tourism, to rehabilitate housing, to turn Cuban ports into an energy hub for other countries. Build an efficient agricultural sector, modern technology and services. Ultimately, create what Marco Rubio has called formal employment with the possibility of social advancement, something that Cuba never had in 67 years of Castroism. Friends, I know that talking about this nowadays, when power outages still last more than 20 hours, when garbage piles up in the streets, when there's nothing to eat, when there are hardly any medicines and people die in hospitals due to lack of basic care. I know all of this may seem like a fantasy, but I assure you it's much closer than you think. Alejandro Castro Espin has to choose one of those two options and close the deal with Marco Rubio, or a freely associated state, or become North America's 51st state. Recently, Donald Trump showed a map that included Canada as his own territory. The island of Cuba is his objective. They assure us that it has become an obsession for Donald Trump and that he wants to speed things up. He could even achieve liberation before Venezuela. Get ready because changes are coming. Yes, they're positive and there's no time to lose. When the decision is supported by the people, the decision moves forward. Trump has acted the same way in every country, trying to remove the tyrants from power so that the people can set the limits and act freely. In Cuba, it's a matter of months. Welcome, we investigate.
Castillon Confidential by Albert Castillon.